Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Samantha back here with another little video. Just again, really simple, really effective jewellery. And if you're new here, welcome. It's nice to have you here. Basically on this channel we just faff around with wire, or in the future I'll be faffing around with a few different things. I'm just reaching into slow stitching actually, so I might just make a few videos of me learning how to do that as well, so we can learn along the way. I just like to craft. It's really good for my mental health, and it keeps me occupied whilst I look after a household which does involve a couple of neurodiverse kids, so it's a good way of relaxing and aiding mental health, in my opinion, which I've needed for the past couple of weeks. It's been a bit of a stressful couple of weeks, but let's get on to some jewellery and I'll stop waffling. We're going to make these really cute bangles today. I have quite a large wrist. I'm a big lady, quite well built. I'm such a northern built woman. I'm very large. Well, not very large. I don't know why I say I'm very large. Maybe I am very large compared to somebody who's only 5'1". I'm nearly 6 foot, and I'm a big person. So I use 2mm gauge for mine, mainly because I like the chunkiness of them. And in fact, these would be really perfect for the gentleman in your life. Good for chaps. If you have a chap who would like to have a copper bangle, obviously. But today I think we're going to make it in the lighter gauge because obviously most women are like something a little bit more delicate, I think. So we're going to make it in 1.5mm wire today. All right, so I'll go through a list of materials. You can decorate these how you like. You can leave them plain like this one, or you can make a feature of the closure, which is a very simple in and out closure, like so, dead easy to put on. And I quite like the way that closure looks as well. All right, it actually reminds me a little bit of a stirrup on a horse. So if you have horsey friends, you know, anyway, make of it what you will. So we'll go through a list of materials to make these cute little bangles. All right, so what you're going to need is I'm going to be using 1.5mm wire today, and again, as usual, I'll put the gauge equivalents somewhere around here, but use whatever you like. So this is 1.5mm. This is the 2mm gauge that I used for this one. You can use whatever you like. I'll try and stay in camera shot today. I think because my eyesight's really bad, I keep bringing it close to my face and forget that I'm actually making a video for you guys. So I'm fiddling around in front of my own eyes and I'm neglecting you chaps. So hopefully I'll do okay. So a wire of your choice, essentially. What else do we need? You're going to need some wrapping wire. So for the 1.5mm wire, I wrap with 0.8. I think that's 20 gauge. For the thicker gauge wire, I wrap with 1mm. So it's entirely up to you. You just have a play about. Don't forget, these are just ideas for you. Again, I'm not an expert. I just like to share, you know, things that I'm making or have made. So 1.5mm wire or 2, and these guys for wrapping. What else will you need? You will need a pair of six-step bell making pliers, or your round nose, whichever ones you like. You'll need some flush cutters, and I can't find my words today, guys. You're going to need some chain nose pliers, all right, just for obvious reasons. Let me just move this out of the way. You're also going to need, probably, it would be beneficial for you to get some nylon jaw pliers, just because when you're wrapping, it's easier to hold the wire as you're wrapping with some nylon jaw pliers, okay? So you'll probably need a pair of those. If you don't mind a couple of tool marks on your handmade pieces, then your chain nose will be fine. You'll need a little emery board, just take off some ends if you need to. You're going to need a measuring implement or a tape or a ruler just to measure out your lengths of wire. What else are you going to need? You will need a pair of flat nose pliers, possibly, so just have them to hand. And apart from that, you're going to need a Bangle mandrel. All right, so I have a couple of these, big heavy lump of a thing, and when we come to the hammering, I will silence the hammering because it's extremely loud. All right, so I'm using an oval one today. And what else? Is that it? Probably just a little chasing hammer and a bench block just to hammer the little hook here for your closure. All right, so seems like a lot, but it's not. And we'll get going and we'll make one of these cute little bangles. All right, so I'll see you in a few. Righty ho, let's get going, shall we? Just as a bit of housekeeping, I apologise if there's any wind noises in my conservatory today. It's really, really windy here. We have Storm Lillian today. So she's creating a bit of havoc in the garden, and my husband was up first thing this morning in his robe in the rain, faffing around in the garden trying to pick up the garden chairs. So it's actually quite windy, so if you can hear noise, I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. Okay, so let's make a slimmer one today. So you're going to need to take your 1.5 millimeter wire, and you're going to need, I'm going to suggest 12, so about 18 inches of wire. What you want to make sure is, because we are doubling this wire up, that you've got enough to play with. All right, so I'm going to suggest about 18 inches. So just give that a snip. So we have our wire. Let me make sure I'm in shot here. You might hear Glory actually snoring as well. So he's getting old, is Glory, actually. He's starting to slow down a little bit, aren't you, buddy? He's actually in the sunspot at the moment, so he's a happy boy. Right, let's bring in our pliers. So because we've got 18 inches, I think that's how many centimetres? About 46 centimetres for us guys that use centimetres. We're going to need to use find the halfway point. So for 18 inches, obviously, it's 9 inches is the halfway point. So find your halfway point. I'm using the largest mandrel on my plier, which for me is 9 millimeters. All right, so you just want to bend the wire around and around like so, to create this little loop, which constitutes this loop on the bracelet. All right, so there's your loop. Excuse me, got a bit of a frog in my throat this morning. With the heavier gauge, this part here is actually hard work. So, you know, if you have dexterity issues, I do suggest you use the lighter gauges for this bangle here, because this part here is quite difficult with 2 millimeter. So you come in with your flat nose pliers, all right, and just where the wires cross, I don't know if you can see there, we want to be bringing that up, you know, into an angle so that it shoots upwards. All right, you turn that over, and again, where the wires meet, do the same thing. All right, and then you can just hold this and manipulate your wire a little bit just so that it's nice and neat and tidy. Give it a bit of a scooch about if you have to, and pull these wires parallel to each other, like so. So essentially you have this. Let's just straighten that up a little bit. That looks a little bent, but it doesn't matter because we're going to be hammering the heck out of this very shortly. So, you know, these things are rustic looking, aren't they? So it doesn't really matter too much. So this is what we have. All right. So this is where we have a chat about the size of the bangle. Now, because we've gone for 18 inches, you should have enough to fit most wrists. There's a little bit of leeway at the end when we're creating this hook here, the length of the hook. So don't worry too much. It's wire snaps back into shape really. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. So the next thing we need to do is to shape it somewhat. You don't have to shape it perfectly at this point, but a little tip that I found is that when you are using is that in shot there? Yep. When you're using an oval mandrel and you're shaping an oval wire shape around it, when you're hammering, it's handy to know where the center point of your mandrel is, because if you have it offset slightly, then you've got a wonky bangle. All right, so what I do is I find the natural center of my mandrel and I mark it with a Sharpie. I'm just slightly off there. So if you set it down on your table and wait for it to settle, and then mark it about here, just so you know where to place the center of your bangle when you're bending your wire around, if that makes sense. All right, so I'll try and do this in shot of the camera. Now I know that around this area here makes me a decent size bangle, so if you want to come in with your tape and just sort of have a play. Okay, so that around here would make about 9 inches. So just, you know, if you're making it for a chap, obviously make it slightly bigger. You're making it for a lady, obviously make it, you know, up here a little bit. My best advice is to make it slightly smaller than you need, because wire does snap back quite a decent amount, doesn't it? So I will probably put it around about here, and just maybe slightly smaller, and just bend it around your mandrel like so. All right, so as you well know that when you release this, it sort of pops back out a little bit, so I don't know, about so much. And then take it off your mandrel and just have a quick look and see, you know, how it looks. Don't worry about the shape at this particular point, because, you know, we will be hammering and we will be shaping it better than this. So there's my mandrel. If you really wanted to, you could measure the internal diameter of it just by getting your tape and just having a little bit of a play, and just see. Yeah, that's measuring about 8 inches, 7.5, 8 inches, something like that. But we're going to be having a little bit of leeway here. All right, so this is the shape that we've got initially. All right, so let me just put this away. Hope that all makes sense and I'm not burbling as usual. So let's pop this on here. Now then, we're going to be doing some hammering. So again, my best advice is do it somewhere where people aren't bothered about the noise. If you have grandchildren in bed, don't do it at 9 o'clock at night if they're sleeping. This is quite noisy. So I'm going to do this off camera, mainly because it's extremely discordant on camera and I don't want to disturb you all by doing all this hammering. But I would start with the hoop, and then just, instead of moving the wire around, move the bangle mandrel around as you're hammering, okay? Because it will keep its shape better that way. All right, so I'm going to come back to you in a couple of seconds when I've hammered this around the mandrel, and we'll go from there. So I'll see you in a few. Righty-ho, so the banging has finished, the banging and crashing, and this is what we're left with. All right, so as you can see, because we work harden the metal by giving it a good old bash, it gives it some stability, but also it's quite springy, so that when we are, you know, using this to put it on and off, it's quite springy, so it works, it works in its favor. So the next thing we need to do is I like to decorate them just with a little bit of wrapping, a bit of coiling here. You can decorate it however you like. You can put wire wrap all the way around it if you wanted to. Again, you can put beads partially on it. I think I'm probably going to wrap a few of these little amazonite beads on this one, just because. So I come in with for this 1.5 millimeter, I come in with my 0.8, which is 20 gauge, I believe. Keep trying to remember the gauge for you gauge guys. And what's that? Let me just measure this for you. I don't know, I take about, I don't know, about 5 inches maybe, 12, 13 centimetres, something like that. You can have as thick or as thin as you like, the wrapping part. So this part here is slightly fiddly, but don't worry about it, don't let it get in the way. All right, so what I tend to do now, let me just move all this out of the way, is just pop the wire around. At this particular stage, there is a little bit of room for manoeuvre, so you can move it up and down your wires a little bit. And try and keep these wires flat and parallel to each other. Okay, so I just make an anchor point here, and then I come in with my nylon jaw pliers and just move this up and hold these two guys parallel with each other. So let me see if I can see what I'm doing with my ridiculously poor eyes in shot. So you just basically wrap quite tightly, however many times you like. For a delicate bracelet, maybe, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we'll go for 8. All right, so you just do this. Come in with your pliers, squeeze things up together like so. Okay, and then what I like to do is underneath, I like to chop just in the center. I'll cut the wire just in the middle. All right, and I'll show you why. I'll come in with my chain nose. So as you can see here, I'll see if I can make sure that you can see what I'm doing. I tend to chop in the center, which means that when you come in with your chain nose pliers to smush things down, you can smush that little bit of wire, that sharp piece, in the center and just tuck it in a little bit, which means that you don't feel it underneath. All right, so do the same with the other side. Chop just in the middle like so, so that when you're smushing things in, you can just tuck that guy just in the middle of these two thicker wires. All right, so I think that that makes it so that you don't feel it underneath, which is great, isn't it? So then I push that right to the edge here. So if you just need to straighten these up slightly, just give them a bit of a squeeze. Try not to mark your wires, Sam. Although, you know what, I like rustic and I like handmade. There's no point in making something if you're going to make it look too perfect, because it could just come off a conveyor belt, couldn't it, if it's too perfect. All right, so that's what we have at the moment. So that's with our 20 gauge wire. You see that? So I would probably, I mean, what I've done with these is I've put, you know, a little, you know, a longer section in the middle. And so you just have a play about and do whatever you like. So I'll probably put one about here on either side of the bangle. So let's make another one. And like I say, you can decorate it how you like. So if you can see the oval here, I'll probably put one atop and, you know, at these points here. So again, keeping these wires, the two larger wires, as straight as you can in your fingers until you can get your pliers out. So again, I think these lighter gauge wires will be much easier for those of us who have some slight dexterity issues. This might not be suitable for you guys that have, you know, really arthritic hands, because there is a little bit of strength to be, you know, needed doing these little bits, but give it a go and see how you feel. All the time, just keep, can you hear my dog snoring? It's Glory snoring again. Just keep these wires nice and parallel, and if you want to do more wrapping or less or whatever, it's entirely up to you. Don't forget, these are simply just ideas from someone who is not an expert. I just think it's nice just to put some beauty out into the world and just sort of share, you know, generic jewellery making practices, which we can all just have a go of. All right, so how many have we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, wasted a bit of wire there, but they'll do for scraps for ear wires. All right, so again, chop that little guy off. Mind your eyes, guys, when you're doing this. Don't want anybody having any eye issues with flinging wire across the room. So just tuck that in so that you can't feel it. That's good. And again, same with this guy here. I hope this is coming over on the camera okay. I shall save that piece for some ear wires. And again, just tuck that in. Give it a bit of a squeeze if you like so. And just tidy things up, and then just give things a bit of a squash. Oh, there goes Glory. All right, so as you can see, we've got one here, and I'll put another one here. I'll do that off camera so that you're not getting bored watching me do that. All right, so I'll come back in a second when I've done that. See you in a few. Right, we're back, guys. How are you getting along? All right, so I have done 2 little sections here. Not only are they decorative, they also help to keep the wires together nice and secure, like so. All right, so I think the next thing we'll do is we will do the clasp. I tend to do the wrapping at the end because if you have to have a little bit of adjustment or whatever, it's easier to do the wrapping, you know, last. All right, so let's make our clasp first. So I use the same size wire. So I've got this little bit of 1.5 millimeter left. All right, so you're going to need about 10 centimeters perhaps. Let me just move these guys out of the way. Let's have a think. No, I'll probably go a little bit more than that. Let's have a think. You know what, I'm going to say 6 inches, about 15 centimeters, possibly 5 inches. 5 inches, let's go for 5 inches, 12.5 centimeters, something like that. It just gives, I'd rather have too much than not enough. All right, so when you make your own, you just have a play and see what you think. So, oh, can't find my pliers. I'm sat on them as usual. So let's find the halfway point. All right, so 2.5 inches. So I like to replicate the, am I in camera? Yes, I am. Honestly, it's quite bright in here now actually, so I'm struggling to see through my camera. So I like to replicate the size of this guy here. So again, you found the halfway point. Come in with your largest mandrel. So like I say, for me, that's 9 millimeters. I know some of them are 10 millimeters, aren't they? So again, just ideas, just do what you feel at the time. Right, so again, let's make these parallel. So where the wires cross, bring that up. And again, where the wires cross, bring that up. Almost like you're making a cotter pin. You remember the cotter pin bracelet tutorial? Very, very similar thing. You're making a split pin essentially at this point. So just with your fingers, if you're lucky like me and you've got big hands, you can use them as tools. So give that a bit of a straighten. Now then, this is the point where I come in and give this a little bit of a bash now, all right? So you bring in your bench block and your hammer. And I tend to flatten this guy a decent amount, so you've got some flattening to it. And then I flatten these bits, but not quite as much. Okay, so give me a second. So you can see we've got a bit of flattening there and some nice texture. so you want that kind of affair. Hope that wasn't too loud for you. I think I've woken my son, who actually should be out of bed by now. Lazy little monkey. Right, there we go. There we are. Okay, so this is the basis of our clasp here. All right, I hope I'm in camera. I hope I'm in camera shot this time. I'll find out when I'm editing. I'm absolutely sure of that. Righty ho. So I like to put a bit of wrapping on here. So again, you come in with whatever. Oh, where are my cutters? There you go. You come in with whatever gauge wire you've been using. So again, I'm using 20 gauge, 0.8 millimeter here. And I won't put 8 wraps in. I'll probably put, I don't know, 5 perhaps. Like so. I think that will do. And just give this a bit of a squeeze. Push it up to the end if you want to. It's all about just exactly what you want to do yourself. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. This is just ideas. I think these are really nice actually for the gentlemen in our lives. We know we do tend to make jewellery for women, don't we? If you have a chap in your life that likes jewellery, then I think, you know, the thicker gauge ones like this one would be really nice for a man, actually. My husband doesn't wear jewellery and neither do my sons. My youngest son kind of does wear a little silver bracelet, but he's not a huge jewellery fan. And he plays the guitar a lot. He's a musician, so I think it would possibly get in the way of his strumming. But if you have a chap in your life, I might do another couple of tutorials maybe, because I do have some ideas for jewellery for gentlemen. So if you're interested, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will just stop waffling, as always. I do try to not talk too much, but you know what? I think when I watch YouTube channels, I like to get the personality of the person that I'm watching. So if I do talk too much for you, then I'm sorry. You'll have to go either put me on silent or watch another channel. There you go. Right, so that's the start of our little clasp, all right? So the next thing we need to do is to kind of gauge now how wide we want this to be, because we want to be bending with the second step on my plier, which is 3 millimeter, bending little hoops like so in order to put the clasp. So I'm thinking to make a loop with these here, it takes just over 1 centimeter. So I'm going to cut about here. Work it out for yourself though, guys. Actually, you know, some people like a little bit wider bangle and some people like a tighter one. So the measurements I'm giving you are just basic measurements. So that looks about right. So what I want to do now, you can either do them one at a time or both at the same time if you're extremely dexterous, which I'm not, so I'm going to do mine one at a time. So you take your plier here, the second step, and you want to be bending inwards, all right? So am I in shot? Yes, I am. I keep having to check because it's quite bright in here and my silly camera darkens the screen to save battery power. So we literally just bend these guys inwards like so. All right, so there we go. Oh, come on. Oh, I'm just gonna straighten those up. All right, so you have this now. So like I said at the beginning, there is some room for maneuver. You can shape things as you go along. You put it back on your mandrel in a little while and just have a play. Just move that down a little bit, that up a little bit. Give that a squeeze. All right, so we're getting there now, okay? Just sort these guys out. There. How does that look? That's good. All right, so we're getting there with the shape of this. what we want to be doing is popping this on here. So we just very gently, open these guys up, not too much, just enough to get your little loop through. I'm sure there's various different ways that you can do this. This is just how I do it. So if anybody has any other ways of doing it, you do you. So just tighten these guys back up again. That's it. That'll have to do for now because I'm on camera and I don't want to be fighting with wire on camera because it's being naughty with me. There we go. That'll do. Right, so as you can see here, what we need to do now, what you want is to have the end of the wrap at the start of this loop here. All right, so when I've done mine, I've found out that if you bend this part here just at the end of the wrap, it fits in nicely. You'll know what I mean when you do it yourself. So let's just straighten that up a little bit because that's annoying me, and it's annoying me even more now. Oh, there we go. Right, so what I'm going to do now is to take the second, what shall I, no, third, no, second. Let's take the second step. You don't want it to be too wide, like, you know, you need it to just be, you don't want it to stick out too much, do you? So let's just take this guy here, and where the end of your wrapping starts or stops here, you want to be bending your wire around there, give or take, maybe 2 or 3 millimeters. So hold carefully and bend forward like so. So what you want is for this to fit in here without too much tension. So I would probably cut it about here. So flush cut about there. All right, that's that. Let's have a look. Yeah, perfect. That's good. So can you see how that works? That's good. So come in with your little file or your emery board and just give those a little bit of a file. At the ends, just take the sharp parts off, like so. That's good. That's good. And then I like to put a little bit of lip on these, just because I find it a little bit easier to fit through, like so. Yeah, that looks good. Yep, that's good. I'm happy with that. So at this particular juncture, if you wanted to put it just back on your mandrel, which I think I probably will, just because, you know, we've been messing around with it and it's come out of shape slightly, just pop it on your mandrel. Give it a little bit of a squeeze around, just so everything is back in place. Yep, there we go. So that's our little bangle. So what we do now is you can either leave it like this, so you take it off and pop it on the wrist, like so. I'll do it the other way around. Like that, that's it. And then that's how it hooks in. And just wear it plain, like so. Or you can do like we've done here and decorate. So shall we go ahead and just decorate that one? And that just pops through like so. Because it's got a little bit of bounce in it, let me just do this off camera. Because it's got some bounce in it, it will aid, there we go, taking it on and off. You don't want it too loose, do you? So there we go. So shall we put a few beads on here? Just for the sake of it, let's do it. Right, so let's have a think. Which beads shall I use? let's have a look at these little pretties. These are tiny, and these are little Amazonite coin beads actually. They're really, really sweet, so I think I'm going to use some of those. So take perhaps, I don't know, enough. You know what I'm like, enough, and just give it a chop. And again, find the centre. So if you're going to have 5 or 3 or whatever, just pop this guy on here like so. And maybe I'll wrap, I don't know, 3-4 times. You can see what I'm doing. How many is that? That's 4. And again, come in, just tidy everything up. Yeah, I think that'll do, and we'll come through and we'll pop one of these little beads on. They're really sweet, these. I think I'm a big fan of using turquoises with copper because I just think it looks really, really nice. And sit that atop there. And we'll have, what shall we have, 3 wraps in between. And come over for the next one. Shall we have a different colour? Black one maybe. Let's see how that looks. So again, like with anything else, this is just an idea, and you can do whatever the heck you like. Yeah, that looks quite nice, I think. So how many did we have in between? Was it 3? Yeah, it was. 1, 2, and 3. Let's have a think. Yeah, not used enough. I've not given myself enough wire here, but I'll have to add some. But you get the picture. Make sure you've got enough wire. I think that's the tip for the day. Make sure you have enough wire. I shall have to add some because I think I'll put 5 on here. 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. How's that looking? They're quite pretty, aren't they? Let's have a really bright one. Let's have that one. Bright Amazonite blue. That's very nice. Come on, down you get. Make sure that sits nice and flat, which it's not doing. I don't know why these things always happen when you're on camera. There we go. And we'll have 1. That's it. Now obviously, when you're doing yours, make sure that you have enough wire, which is what I've not done here. So I'm just going to snip that there. But you know, nothing's perfect, is it, guys? Nothing is perfect. And as I always say, least of all me. So I'm just going to take a little bit more wire. And again, attach the wire. That's it. So that we have 3. Yeah, that's good. And what colour shall we have? This sort of little brownish coloured one. Oops. Come on then. Where are you? Oh, good grief. There we go. Yeah, that's quite pretty. And again. It's not wanting to play the game. There we go. That's better. So these little coin beads are great for wrapping on top of bangles like this because they're flat-sided, I think. So what did we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. So there we have that. There we go. So we'll just tidy this little lot up here because I've had to add wire. Silly Sam. I'll just chop that and give it a smush. We'll chop this guy again in the center so that you can hide the little bit of wire in between the 2 base wires. Just means that you don't get any sharp scratchy edges. And last but not least, we'll smush this one in. like so. Base wires are just crossing over slightly, so if that happens, just give them a bit of a tweak. And we'll just chop that off there. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little tutorial. Again, it's just ideas for you, just to give us something to do, something to play with. And there we have it. So you just pull it back into shape if you need to. And how cute is that? So you get these little cute little bangles that you can wear with other bangles, etc, etc, etc. Let me pop this one on off camera as always, just so I can have a faff about with it. There we go, that's it. Ooh, cute. Now then, that's very, very nice, isn't it? Lovely. So have a go at making these guys and let me know what you think. Again, make them for the gentleman in your life with the thicker gauges. Have a good play and let me know how you find it. All right, so I hope you have a lovely week and I will see you in my next video. So I'll speak to you soon. Bye guys.